Hey everyone, it's Ken. Ever since the Skull Merchant's release, she has met the scorn and ire of 99% of the player base. All self-respecting players know this and agree with it. Don't get me wrong, there are the very small minority whom genuinely enjoy the Skull Merchant. Now don't get me wrong, you're more than entitled in your opinion, especially when your opinion is wrong. I think we can all agree that subjectively, Skull Merchant isn't fun. She's not fun to go against, not fun to play, and just overall isn't too strong. You might be wondering how come a few months back we got the survey or the stats showing that Skull Merchant was the most efficient killer. That's not because she's the most strong. If that was the case, Blight, Nurse, and so many others would be at top of the kill list. The reason why she was at the top is because players just simply give up when going against her. They don't want to eat the DC penalty, so they just decide just to kill themselves off hook or to simply run back into the Skull Merchant. And the Skull Merchant was so interesting before she was even revealed, as everyone thought we were getting a cyborg killer, but instead of a cool cyborg killer, we got a weirdly rich manga artist who uses skulls as drones, and probably has the most uninteresting powers ever. I think we can all agree that her case was only hurt even more when she was released right after the night. Both of these killers were very efficient at 3-genning, but unfortunately, the Skull Merchant had a build and a very well-known playstyle. Usually, this playstyle consisted of simply just getting a 3-gen and just sitting there for hours and hours and hours. So this got me thinking, how could we really rework the Skull Merchant? Ever since her release from PTB to Live, I've been thinking of a rework ever since, and technically a rework that I wanted came to pass, but I didn't come to the Skull Merchant. My rework idea was kind of turned into the Singularity. I wanted her to be able to use her drones more as cameras rather than radars and be able to collect information that way. But unfortunately, we got the Singularity, probably one of the toughest characters to play in the game and probably one of the most balanced because of that. He's a very deadly killer, but unfortunately, not a lot of people know how to play him. So I was back to the drawing board. How do we rework Skull Merchant to make her not typically different from her style, because you shouldn't really shift all too far away from a character's playstyle when you attempt to rework them. Now we could try to turn her into Singularity Light, where she just simply has drone cameras, but I feel like that'll be too similar. Now don't get me wrong, we have plenty of killers out there that are very similar. Billy and Bubba are very similar, to the point that Bubba had the exact same add-ons as Billy. But I think if we were to get this hypothetical rework to Skull Merchant in 2024 or 2025, we wouldn't see an exact carbon copy of Singularity. So over the past few, I want to say days, honestly, I've been kind of workshopping an idea for a rework of Skull Merchant. Now, since I have no way of showing this, it's just simply a brainchild of mine, I'm unable to show you any sort of footage of how this would work in action, so it's all kind of theoretical. So the first major change I would make to the Skull Merchant's playstyle is, firstly, bringing down her total drones to 2. That might sound crazy until you realize how I'm going to be reworking the Skull Merchant's drones. The drones would no longer be stationary, but would travel between waypoints that the Skull Merchant would drop. Let's say she has 4 or 5 of these, give or take with add-ons. Maybe a meme add-on that removes 2, or a powerful add-on that adds 2. When a waypoint is placed, it's kind of put into a sequence. So for example, it would be waypoint 1, waypoint 2, waypoint 3, waypoint 4, and waypoint 5. And that is the waypoint sequence that the drone will follow. Now, it wouldn't go from point A to point B directly, because obviously that'd be stupid, and it would obviously get stuck on foliage. It would navigate around in a very, let's say, blueprint or formulaic way. And then once it reached the 5th waypoint, or the last place waypoint, it will sit there for about, let's say, a few seconds, and then do a 180 and do the exact same thing, but backwards. And it'll keep on doing that until it's disabled, or the Skull Merchant picks it back up. And then when it comes to disabling the drones, keep the exact same current minigame, but make it so whenever the drone is disabled, Skull Merchant would get a noise notification of that drone being disabled. However, the notification wouldn't be on the drone itself, but on the last visited waypoint, or the closest waypoint if, for example, it came from waypoint 5 and went over to waypoint 4, but was closer to waypoint 4 would get the noise notification. And when it comes to resetting or repairing the disabled drone, it wouldn't be reset automatically unless with a, let's say, purple or green add-on. Otherwise, the skull merchant will have to get within a certain amount of range of the drone and be able to click on her radar in order to reset it, or also click it to be able to pick it back up. When it comes to the actual drone behavior themselves, I'll be changing the way they function on the skull merchant's end as well. The radar will have two modes, Drone 1 and Drone 2. These two drones will be able to kind of see the difference when it comes to their aura, as Drone 1, for example, will be red or blue, depending upon colors, and the other one will be white or some other off color. So whenever a drone is selected, the color of the radar itself will reflect the color of the drone you are selecting. So the screen will be blue if you're selecting Drone 2, if it's blue, or if you're selecting Drone 1, it will be the white screen to reflect the white aura of Drone 1. Sounds confusing? Trust me, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes trying to get all that out correctly. Whenever a survivor walks in the range of the drone, you can see them on the radar, period. Of course, crouching or not moving will of course counter the skull merchant's radar. However, to counteract this, we'll be increasing the overall turn rate, let's say by 10% default. Maybe a little bit more. And whenever it goes past a player, it will have a random chance to suddenly do a 180 and start going in the opposite direction, thus causing some survivors to be caught off guard by a sudden rotating drone. Of course, the skull merchant can also still rotate the drones themselves, but they can rotate automatically if the player sits within the range of them for a bit too long. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This is kind of a playstyle I kind of came up with real quick to keep the same basic idea that the skull merchant has had for her entire life cycle, and also be able to have a bit more interesting playstyle when it comes to playing as her or playing against her. Currently, her playstyle is really boring, so I kind of wanted to just flip it up a bit. And like I said, this could be fucking horrible for all I know. It's just that we don't have a way to test this. It's just no like workshop for DBD or anything like that. Whether you like this idea or you don't like this idea, please give me your opinion in the comments, as I believe the best way to find the best plausible answer is to always discuss with each other. Even if we never would agree on what a change could or could not be, we could eventually reach an end where we kind of walk away with a bit more information. Before this video does end, I would like to ask you to possibly check out my Twitch. I stream Monday through Friday, 6:30 CST to roughly, I want to say 9 to 10 CST. It depends on the day, as life is life and sometimes it gets in the way. I do sometimes stream on the weekends, but it's pretty inconsistent and usually it's a lot shorter streams. But without further ado, I hope you all did enjoy this video. Have a nice rest of your morning, night, afternoon, or whatever it is for you. Bye.